Today lesson How to Practice English Speaking Alone English Listening Practice Podcast with James and Olivia. Hello, and welcome back to the show. I'm Olivia.
And I'm James. And this, dear listeners, is your favorite podcast for learning English through listening.
That's right. If you're new here, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. We're so glad you're here again this week.
So, today we are tackling a topic that comes up in our inbox almost every single week. We get messages from learners all over the world, from Brazil, from Vietnam, from Turkey, from Poland, and they all ask some version of the same question.
And that question is, how can I practice speaking English when I don't have anyone to talk to?
Exactly. Not everyone has a conversation partner. Not everyone lives in an English-speaking country. Not everyone has the money for private lessons or the confidence to join a language exchange group.
So today's episode is called How to Practice English Speaking Alone. We're going to give you real, practical, doable techniques that you can start using today, by yourself, in your own room, with no other person required.
And as always, we'll slow things down, repeat key vocabulary, and give you little pauses to think and repeat after us. So grab a coffee, grab a notebook if you like taking notes, and let's get started.
Let's do it.
Okay, Olivia, let's start with the obvious question. Why is speaking so much harder than reading or listening for most learners?
Great question. I think it comes down to three things. First, speaking is active, you have to produce language, not just recognize it. Second, speaking happens in real time, you don't get to pause and think for 30 seconds like you can with reading. And third, speaking involves other people, which means it involves fear. Fear of making mistakes, fear of being judged, fear of forgetting a word in front of someone.
That third point is huge. I talk to so many learners who tell me, James, I understand everything when I listen. I can read a newspaper article, no problem. But the moment I have to open my mouth and speak, my mind goes blank.
It's incredibly common. And here's the good news, this is exactly why practicing alone is so powerful. When you take other people out of the equation, you take away a huge part of that fear. There's no one to judge you. There's no pressure to respond instantly. You can make as many mistakes as you want, and nobody will ever know.
It's a safe space to build the muscle.
Precisely. Think of it like a musician practicing scales alone before a concert, or an athlete training alone before a big match. You wouldn't expect a violinist to only practice during a live performance, that would be a disaster. Speaking is the same. You need private practice time to build strength before you use that strength in public.
I love that comparison. So let's move into the actual techniques now. We've got, how many, Olivia?
I count 8 solid techniques today.
8 techniques. Let's go through them one by one, and for each one, we'll explain what it is, why it works, and exactly how to do it.
Technique number 1 is called shadowing. James, do you want to explain this one? I know it's one of your favorites.
It is, actually. Shadowing is a technique where you listen to a native speaker. It could be from a podcast, a movie, a YouTube video, anything with clear audio, and you try to speak at the exact same time as them, copying their words, their rhythm, their intonation, almost like their shadow. That's where the name comes from.
So you're not translating, you're not thinking about grammar rules. You're just mimicking, like an actor copying another actor's performance.
Exactly. And here's why it works so well. It trains your mouth muscles to move the way English mouth muscles move. Every language uses the mouth, tongue, and throat slightly differently. English has sounds that many languages don't have. Think of their th sound in think, or their vowel in sit versus seat. Shadowing forces your mouth to physically practice these sounds over and over, at natural speed.
It also trains your ear and your mouth together, at the same time, which is incredibly efficient.
How would someone actually start doing this today?
Simple steps. First, choose a short audio clip. 30 seconds to 1 minute is plenty for a beginner. Second, listen to it 2 or 3 times without speaking, just to understand it. Third, play it again and try to speak along with it, copying everything you hear, even if you don't understand every word. Fourth, do this 5, 6, 7 times with the same clip until it starts to feel natural in your mouth.
And a tip here, don't choose content that's too fast or too advanced when you're starting out. News broadcasts are often too fast for beginners. Something like a slow English podcast, hint, or children's shows, or slow-speed audiobooks are much better starting points.
Good tip. And don't worry about sounding silly. You will sound strange at first, talking along with a recording by yourself. That's completely normal.
Absolutely normal. Everyone who's ever used this technique has felt awkward the first few times.
Technique 2 is one that sounds strange when you first hear it, but it's incredibly effective, talking to yourself, out loud, in English, throughout your day.
This is often called self-talk, and it's something a lot of successful language learners swear by.
The idea is simple. As you go about your normal daily activities, making breakfast, getting dressed, walking to the bus stop, doing the dishes, narrate what you're doing in English, out loud, or in a quiet voice if you're in public.
So instead of thinking silently, I need to find my keys, you'd actually say out loud, okay, where are my keys? I think I left them on the kitchen table. Let me check there first.
Exactly. You're turning your internal monologue, which everyone has, in every language, into spoken English practice.
Why does this work so well, Olivia?
A few reasons. First, it gives you enormous amounts of practice time. Most of us have an internal monologue running almost all day. If even 20% of that becomes spoken English, that's hours of extra practice every single week, completely free, with 0 extra time needed in your schedule.
That's the beauty of it, you're not adding a new activity, you're transforming an activity you already do constantly.
Second, it forces you to find English words for everyday, ordinary things, the things you actually think about, not just textbook topics like my hobbies or my family. You'll quickly discover gaps in your vocabulary. You might realize you don't know the word for colander or doormat or to unplug something.
And when you discover that gap, what should you do?
Look it up immediately, right in that moment if you can, using your phone. Then use the word again right away in a sentence. This creates a strong memory connection because you needed that word for something real and immediate, not just for a vocabulary list.
Great point. So how should someone start this practice?
Start small. Pick one daily activity, let's say making coffee in the morning, and commit to narrating just that one activity in English every day for a week. I'm filling the kettle with water. I'm turning it on. While I wait, I'll get my mug from the cupboard. Once that feels comfortable, add a second activity, then a third.
Building it up gradually so it doesn't feel overwhelming.
Exactly.
Technique 3, recording yourself speaking, and then listening back.
This one takes courage, I'll admit that. A lot of people hate the sound of their own recorded voice.
It's true, almost everyone feels a bit uncomfortable the first time they hear themselves recorded. But this discomfort fades quickly, and the benefits are huge.
So how does this work in practice? Choose a topic. It could be my weekend plans, a movie I recently watched, my opinion on remote work, anything at all. Set a timer for 1 or 2 minutes. Press record on your phone. And just speak, without stopping, without editing yourself, for the full time.
The without stopping part is important. Don't pause the recording to think of the perfect word. Keep going, even if you make a mistake, even if you say, a lot. This trains fluency, the ability to keep speaking despite imperfection.
Right, fluency and accuracy are actually 2 different skills. Fluency is about flow and confidence. Accuracy is about grammar and correctness. Both matter, But if you try to focus on both at the same time while you're speaking, you'll freeze up.
So this exercise is really a fluency exercise first.
Correct. Now, once you've recorded yourself, listen back, and this is the important second half of the technique. Listen for 3 things. 1. Moments where you paused for too long or got stuck. 2. Grammar mistakes you notice yourself. 3. Pronunciation that sounds unclear to you.
And here's a bonus tip. Do this same exercise once a month, on the same topic type, and save your recordings. In 3 months, listen back to your very first recording. Most learners are genuinely shocked at how much they've improved. It's incredibly motivating.
That's such a good point, James. Progress in speaking is often invisible day to day, but very visible over weeks and months.
Technique 4 is the mirror technique. This one is wonderfully simple.
Stand or sit in front of a mirror and have a conversation with yourself, out loud, in English, while watching your own face and mouth.
Why does watching yourself help?
A few reasons. First, it helps with pronunciation, because you can actually watch your mouth shape sounds and compare it to how native speakers move their mouths in videos. Second, and maybe more importantly, it trains your confidence and body language. Many learners speak English while looking down, avoiding eye contact, looking nervous. The mirror trains you to speak while maintaining eye contact, even if it's with yourself, which prepares you for real conversations later.
It's a bit like public speaking training, actually. Professional speakers often rehearse in front of a mirror for exactly this reason.
Exactly the same principle. You could practice introducing yourself, answering common interview questions, or even just having an imaginary debate about a topic you care about, all while watching yourself in the mirror.
Any tips for people who feel awkward doing this?
Start with just 60 seconds. 60 seconds of mirror talking, once a day. It feels strange for the first 2 or 3 days, and then it starts to feel completely normal, almost meditative for some people.
Number 5, describing your surroundings out loud.
This is a fantastic one for building vocabulary and sentence structure at the same time. Wherever you are right now, your bedroom, a cafe, a bus, a park, describe what you see, out loud or in a whisper, using full English sentences.
There's a red cup on the table. Next to it, there's an open book. Outside the window, I can see a tree with yellow leaves. It looks like autumn is coming.
Exactly like that. Notice how James used different sentence structures there. There's, next to it, I can see, it looks like. This exercise naturally pushes you to use a variety of grammar structures, not just the same one repeated.
And it's an exercise you can do literally anywhere, at any time, with zero preparation.
Which makes it perfect for those small moments in your day, waiting for a bus, standing in a queue at the supermarket, waiting for your food to cook.
A nice extension of this technique, try describing the same scene using different tenses. Describe what you see now in the present tense. Then imagine describing it to a friend later that evening, using the past tense. There was a red cup on the table. Then imagine what it might look like in an hour, using the future tense.
Ooh, that's a great addition. That turns a vocabulary exercise into a grammar exercise as well.
Technique 6, preparing and answering imaginary interview or conversation questions.
This is particularly useful for learners who need English for work, or who are preparing for actual job interviews, university interviews, or visa interviews.
Even if you don't need it for something formal, it's still a great exercise because it forces you to organize longer thoughts, not just short sentences.
How does it work? Make a list of common questions. Tell me about yourself. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Describe a challenge you overcame. Then, one at a time, answer them out loud, ideally recording yourself as we discussed earlier.
The trick here is to not read from a script. Think about your answer for 30 seconds, jot down 2 or 3 key points if you like, and then speak freely, expanding on those points naturally.
This trains a very important real-world skill, organizing your thoughts quickly and speaking in structured, complete answers rather than short fragments.
You could also apply this to everyday conversation questions, not just job interviews. Questions like, what did you do last weekend? What's your favorite season and why? What's a book or movie that changed how you think? These come up constantly in real conversations.
Great point. Building a little question bank for yourself and working through it weekly is a fantastic long-term project.
Technique 7, and this one is often underestimated, reading aloud.
Simple but powerful. Choose any English text, a news article, a page from a novel, a blog post, even the transcript of this podcast episode, and read it aloud, at a natural pace, focusing on clear pronunciation.
Why does this help, if you're just reading someone else's words rather than creating your own?
Because it removes one whole layer of difficulty. You don't need to think about what to say, since it's already written for you. This means you can focus 100% of your attention on pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation.
It's like separating the skills. In free conversation, you're juggling content, grammar, and pronunciation all at once. Reading aloud lets you isolate just the pronunciation piece.
Exactly. And a great add-on to this technique, record yourself reading, then find a version of the same text read by a native speaker. Many novels have audiobook versions, many articles have audio versions, and compare your recording to theirs. Notice where your rhythm or stress differs.
That comparison step is powerful, because English stress and rhythm are often the biggest cause of learners sounding unnatural, even when their grammar and vocabulary are excellent.
Absolutely. English is what we call a stress-timed language. This means certain words in a sentence get stressed and take more time, while other small words get squeezed together quickly. Many other languages are what's called syllable-timed, where every syllable takes roughly equal time. This is one of the biggest sources of a noticeable accent, and reading aloud with comparison is one of the best ways to fix it.
So good.
Our final technique, number 8, role-playing an entire conversation by yourself, playing both roles.
This sounds a little unusual, but stick with us.
Choose a common real-life scenario, ordering food at a restaurant, checking into a hotel, asking for directions, a job interview, a small talk conversation with a neighbor. Then act out the entire conversation, speaking both parts, perhaps even changing your voice slightly or shifting your body position for each character.
Hi, welcome to the restaurant, table for how many? Then you shift, just one, please. Shift back, right this way. Can I start you off with something to drink? And so on.
It feels theatrical, and honestly, that's part of why it works so well. You're forced to think about realistic responses on both sides, which builds a much richer mental map of how real conversations actually unfold, the questions people ask, the typical responses, the small polite phrases that native speakers use constantly, like no worries, sounds good, let me check on that for you.
These small conversational phrases are honestly some of the most useful language you can learn, and they rarely appear in textbooks.
Exactly. And once you've practiced a scenario like this a few times, when you actually face that situation in real life, checking into a real hotel, ordering at a real restaurant, your brain already has a rehearsed pattern to draw from, which massively reduces anxiety.
It's a form of mental preparation, really, the same way athletes visualize their performance before a competition.
Okay, so we've covered 8 solid techniques. Shadowing, self-talk, recording yourself, the mirror technique, describing your surroundings, answering imaginary interview questions, reading aloud, and role-playing both sides of a conversation.
That's a lot of tools. So the natural next question is, how does someone actually build this into a realistic daily routine, without feeling overwhelmed?
Great question. My advice is always, don't try to do all 8 every single day. That's a recipe for burnout. Instead, pick 2 or 3, and rotate through the week.
Let's give listeners an example routine, just as a starting template they can adjust.
Sure. Monday, 10 minutes of shadowing with a short podcast clip. Tuesday, self-talk during your morning routine, plus describing your surroundings on your commute. Wednesday, record yourself for 2 minutes on a topic, then listen back. Thursday, reading aloud for 10 minutes with a comparison to a native audio version. Friday, mirror technique, answering 1 or 2 imaginary interview or conversation questions. Weekend, role-play a full conversation scenario, maybe a slightly longer one since you likely have more free time.
And realistically, how long should each session be?
Honestly, even 10 to 15 minutes a day is enough to see real progress over a few months, as long as you're consistent. Consistency beats intensity every time with language learning. 15 minutes daily will beat 2 hours once a week, every single time.
That's such an important point. A lot of learners think they need huge blocks of time, an hour, 2 hours, and because they can't find that much time, they end up doing nothing at all.
Exactly, and that's the trap. Small, consistent practice, built into your existing daily life, is far more sustainable and, honestly, far more effective.
Let's talk about some common mistakes, because we want listeners to get this right from the start.
Good idea. Mistake number 1, only practicing topics you're already comfortable with. It's tempting to always talk about my hobbies or my daily routine because those feel easy. But real growth comes from pushing into new topics, politics, technology, health, relationships, abstract opinions. Push yourself into less comfortable territory regularly.
Mistake number 2, never reviewing your own mistakes. If you record yourself but never actually listen back critically, you lose most of the benefit. The listening back step is where the real learning happens.
Mistake number 3, expecting perfection. A lot of learners get frustrated and quit because their solo speaking doesn't sound like a native speaker yet. But remember, this is practice, it's meant to be imperfect. Even native speakers say repeat themselves, and make small grammar slips in casual speech.
Mistake number 4, doing it silently, in your head, instead of actually out loud. This is a big one. Thinking in English is a wonderful habit too, but it does not train your mouth muscles or your actual speaking fluency the same way that speaking out loud does. If you can, always choose the out loud option, even if it's just a whisper.
Mistake number 5, not using new vocabulary immediately. If you learn a new word during your practice, use it in a sentence right away, and try to use it again the next day. Words that get used quickly after learning are far more likely to stick permanently.
Great list. Any final mistake, Olivia?
One more, comparing your solo practice progress to someone else's. Everyone's starting point, learning speed, and available practice time is different. Compare your English today to your English 1 month ago, not to someone else's English.
Alright, let's actually do a short practice exercise together, right now, so our listeners can try this out in real time.
I love this idea. Okay, listeners, here's what we'll do. I'm going to describe a short scene, twice, at a natural pace. After the second time, I'll pause, and I want you to try repeating it out loud, from memory, in your own words if needed. Ready?
Here we go.
It was a quiet Sunday morning. The sun was shining through the kitchen window, and the smell of fresh coffee filled the room. Outside, a few birds were singing in the garden, and the street was almost completely empty.
One more time, listeners, listen closely.
It was a quiet Sunday morning. The sun was shining through the kitchen window, and the smell of fresh coffee filled the room. Outside, a few birds were singing in the garden, and the street was almost completely empty.
Pause, 5 seconds, okay, now it's your turn. Pause this episode if you need more time, and try to say that scene out loud, in your own words. Don't worry about getting it perfectly word forward, focus on the main ideas: quiet Sunday morning, sun through the window, smell of coffee, birds singing, empty street.
Great work, everyone. That's a small taste of the shadowing and repetition techniques we talked about earlier.
Let's do one more, a slightly different type of exercise, answering a question.
Here's the question: what's one small thing that made you smile this week? Take a moment, think of your answer in English, and say it out loud.
Pause, 5 seconds, perfect. However you answered, whether it was 3 words or 3 sentences, that is exactly the kind of everyday spontaneous speaking practice that builds real fluency over time.
Before we wrap up, let's do our regular vocabulary spotlight, a few useful words and phrases from today's episode.
First up, fluency. This means the ability to speak smoothly and naturally, without too many pauses or hesitations. Example, her fluency improved a lot after she started practicing every day.
Next, to mimic. This means to copy someone's speech, movement, or behavior closely. Example, try to mimic the native speaker's pronunciation as closely as you can.
Next, monologue. A long speech given by one person, or in this case, your internal thoughts. Example, I turned my internal monologue into spoken practice by talking to myself while cooking.
Next, to freeze up. This means to suddenly become unable to speak or act, usually because of nervousness. Example, I always freeze up when someone asks me a question in English without warning.
And finally, to stick, as in, information that sticks in your memory. Example, new vocabulary sticks better when you use it right away in a sentence.
Great set of words today. Try using at least one of them in your own sentence sometime this week.
Time for our listener question of the week. This one comes from a listener named Marco, from Italy. Marco writes, I practice speaking alone every day, but I feel like I'm just repeating the same mistakes over and over because there's no one to correct me. What should I do?
That's such a common and important concern, Marco. Thank you for sending it in. Here's what I'd suggest. First, use free tools to get some outside feedback occasionally. Many apps and even some AI tools can listen to your recordings and point out grammar or pronunciation issues.
Second, even without a human to correct you in real time, the recording and listening back technique we discussed earlier is incredibly valuable, because with practice, you actually get better at hearing your own mistakes. Your ear becomes trained over time.
And third, try to occasionally combine your solo practice with some real conversation practice too, even once a week, with a language exchange partner or online tutor. Solo practice builds the foundation, but real conversations give you the correction and feedback that solo practice alone can't fully provide.
Great answer. Solo practice and real conversation practice really work best as partners, not as competing options.
Exactly. Think of solo practice as the gym, and real conversations as the actual game. You need both.
Alright, Olivia, I think that's a wrap for today's episode.
It really is. Let's do a quick recap for our listeners before we say goodbye. Today we covered 8 techniques for practicing English speaking alone: shadowing, self-talk throughout your day, recording and reviewing yourself, the mirror technique, describing your surroundings, answering imaginary interview questions, reading aloud with comparison, and role-playing both sides of a conversation.
We also talked about building a realistic weekly routine, avoiding common mistakes, and we even did 2 live practice exercises together.
So here's your challenge for this week, listeners. Choose just one technique from today's episode, just one, and practice it for 5 to 10 minutes every day for the next 7 days. At the end of the week, notice how it felt on day 1 compared to day 7.
Small, consistent action beats big, occasional effort every single time.
Couldn't agree more. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend who's also learning English. It genuinely helps us reach more learners around the world.
And as always, leave us a comment or a message with your own questions, and we might answer them right here on the show.
Thank you so much for listening, and for practicing along with us today.
Keep speaking, keep practicing, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye for now.
Bye everyone.